So my friends over at ASUS South Africa decided to send over some of their highest end gaming components for review. This includes the X99 Strix gaming motherboard that I have right in front of me, which they include with it an Intel Core i7-6950x 10-core, 20-thread monster of a CPU. Then they also sent me the GTX 1080 Strix, GTX 1070 Strix, the ROG Sparta mouse, as well as the PG24 8Q 180Hz 1080p monitor. So with all of these high-end components in my possession, but not enough to quite make a full build out of it, I decided to see if my friends over at Wootware could help me out. And they gloriously came through with a Xigmatek 650-watt 80+ gold power supply, a Galax 240GB SSD, a Raijintek 240 liquid CPU cooler, a Phanteks Enthoo Luxe chassis, a Seagate 2TB hard drive, another GTX 1080, as well as rounding out the build with 32GB of DDR4 3200MHz Ripjaws 5 memory. So if you're keeping track at home, that means that the rough total cost of this entire system is just under $4,500, excluding the monitor and the mouse. That means this is the most expensive PC build that I have ever done in my entire life. So let's get started. So I guess first off, the case. What am I talking about? That's it, right? Need the CPU installation kits or the RGB header. Whoa, hello. Ripjaws 5. Cool. That might be too much. That's the name of my new series, Beyond the Motherboard, consisting of every component that you've ever forgotten of.
650.
650 for 3 cards, 2 cards. 650 for 2 cards. 2 of the fastest graphics cards known to man. That is crazy, but it's gonna work. EPS. You're all the one I want. You are the one I want. Honey. What's their recommended way of doing this? Do you put like the main one on the inside and then the other one on the outside? Or?
I really don't think there is one.
Time to check and see if it's alive. All of the beautiful, beautiful colors. Now where is the power button? Power switch. Moment of truth. Everything's on. Postcode 53. I don't know what that means. Okay, it's the memory. Yeah, I'll just put in 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, should be dead. 14, 60, 53. Nope. There we go. And power. 14, 60, 50, 14. Yes, there it is. Wow, full-length bottom dust over. Static electricity, man. There we go. Is that a 200mm in the front? I love Phanteks accessories.
That's amazing.
No way. Thank you, Phanteks. Thank you so much. Wow, look at all these drives. Jeez. Yeah, that's a 200mm in the front. It's got enough space that I don't have to worry. How's that? They just might reach. That's fantastic. That makes a whole lot of sense. Oh, dog. Cat dog. What cat dog? I mean, this is preliminarily it, right?
Okay. Hard drives.
Yep.
RAM,
Yep.
GPU.
Yep. CPU.
Power for everything. Power for board, power for CPU,
Yep.
power for GPU, power for hard drives.
Fan controllers hooked up.
Then I suppose test it, install Windows, then move on to the secondary GPUs. Once everything works, close it up.
Okay. So.
Stop.
So now with everything besides the last 2 GPUs installed on the physical system, and then also the fact that I have Windows installed and everything set up and confirmed to be working, it's time to get some of the color of the system coordinated. I just got red dye all over myself. And somehow on the camera as well. Holy smokes, that flew everywhere. Looks pink right now. I'm just gonna dump it all in. I've done this once before, and it took the entire bottle, so the entire bottle it is. Now it's time for the next two GPUs. First up is the 1070, because that is going to be the PhysX card and also on the bottom, so it makes it easier to install the other 1080. Unfortunately, while the best case scenario is having the second GPU being a blower style design so that I can exhaust heat out of the side, that is unfortunately not going to happen, and the airflow for this 1080 is going to be rather restricted. But I think it should be perfectly fine, especially if I turn the fan speeds up. And then also for the Strix 1070, I really don't anticipate it being used a whole lot, especially since I think the only PhysX enabled game that I own is Metro Last Light. And it's kind of just in the system because it will help in at least one game, so why not? Now I know some of you guys are probably wondering what the heck is a 650 watt power supply doing in a build with 3 graphics cards. And from all of the testing that I've done with SLI 1080s, I think a 650 watt is going to be perfectly fine, especially since the GTX 1070 actually isn't going to be utilized a whole lot. I really don't anticipate going over the 650 watt mark in any of the games that I test, even with the 6950X installed. And that's one of the advantages of Pascal, is just the power efficiency of these cards. They're fully capable of giving you high-end performance without needing ridiculously intense power supplies. So with the system completely assembled at this point with the ASUS X99 motherboard, the 10-core CPU, the 3 GPUs, and the various other accessories, I want to get one thing out of the way right up front. This is not a practical build by any stretch of the imagination. I know this, you know this, so we can just lay that out right up front, and we don't have to go down in the comments telling me how much this is a waste. I know that SLI support on a 1080 is not going to give you 1-to-1 increase in every game. I'm aware of this. I also know that a PhysX card is not going to be utilized in most games, and especially in the games that I tested, only one of them supported it, with that being Metro Last Light. So having a 1070, a $450 graphics card as your PhysX card is completely unreasonable. I get it. That's not the point. And even the 10-core CPU from Intel is actually a very difficult processor to justify, with a 10-core Xeon being even cheaper. But again, not the point. But rather, the point of this entire thing was to build the best system that I have ever been able to build. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the benchmarks. The 4K gaming on this machine is incredibly smooth. Again, not immensely more than a single 1080. I mean, you can check out the results from the ASUS Strix 1080 review that I did right over there. But with that said, there still is a performance increase in most games. Even Metro Last Light averaged nearly 40 FPS on 4K with the highest settings enabled, something that I've never been able to see before. I was even able to set some insanely high scores in overclocking on the HWBot website. The 6950X overclocked easily to 4.3 GHz on the Raijintek cooler, and I got some pretty high scores with the SLI 1080s as well in a lot of the GPU benchmarks. Even with the PG24 monitor, 180Hz 1080p gaming is incredibly simple in most games. The Witcher 3, being one of the more demanding titles, even still averaged over 100 FPS with NVIDIA Hairworks turned on. Overwatch, in contrast, with epic settings at 1080p, hit the frame cap of 300 FPS and wouldn't go any higher, but that's what it averaged at. So the build itself actually went pretty well. The Phanteks Enthoo Luxe has plenty of space to build in for cable management, getting everything sorted, the PSU shroud cover, all of that is amazing. And then speaking of the PSU, the 650 watt Xigmatek power supply was sufficient for all 3 of the cards, and the 6950X, with that being overclocked to 4.3 GHz in all instances. I know that some people may be concerned that it wasn't enough, but I kept a close eye on the power outlet with my meter attached to it, and I saw that it never went above 650 watts with all 3 of the cards. And that's probably due to the fact that PhysX the PhysX card, the 1070, wasn't active all of the time. I know that if all 3 cards were pushed to 100%, it would definitely go over the 650 watt limit. But as the configuration stands now, that was not an issue at all. So with just 2 active cards, an occasional PhysX boost, there was no more than 650 watts from the wall. Now, coming to a conclusion, I'm not really sure there's one to make. This is the best system that I have ever gotten my hands on, and I am insanely stoked that I was even able to get to assemble this. And I just want to say thank you again to ASUS South Africa and Wootware for providing all of the components for this build. So I guess that leaves us with like it if you enjoy builds like this, dislike it if you hate overkill builds and you prefer practicality. I completely understand. Leave a comment down below if you actually want to name this system, because I couldn't figure out what to call it the entire time I was doing this. Subscribe if you want to stay up to date on all of the reviews that I'm going to be doing on most of these components, including the Strix 1070, the PG24-8Q, the ROG Sparta mouse, all of it, the X99 Strix motherboard, all of that's going to be reviewed coming up, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of that. And now comes the bitter moment of having to disassemble the system and send it all back. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. That also, no, that's a terrible transition. What are you doing? So my friends over at ASUS South Africa descended from the heavens. 50X, 10 core, 20 thread. Yes, my friends, 10 cores in a CPU. That's wonderful. That's the best cores. To hit up my friends over at Wootware to see what they could do about it. And they said, Brett, you have a problem, but we want to help. And they sent me all of these nice fancy components that you see right here. $500, which means this is the most expensive build that I am ever going to do in my life. At least, I hope. Dang it.
You don't.